Texas is in an uproar. One of the most controversial Democrats in the Lone Star State, Texas, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, has vanished from public view. Now, her staff, they have turned on her, folks, calling her a boss from hell, accusing her of treating them like personal servants and slaves and firing people who dare to speak up, guys. But now it's much bigger than an HR scandal. Governor Greg Abbott has unleashed the full force of Texas law enforcement, not just to hunt down Jasmine Crockett, but to track every missing Democrat who has fled their post. And it's not just looking in Texas, guys. This is a multi-state manhunt with one goal: drag lawmakers back to the Capitol, force a quorum, and then push through a redistricting plan that could reshape Texas politics for a generation. Now, here's the question. This is the question that's got the nation divided right now. Is Governor Greg Abbott of Texas standing up for the people of Texas and protecting democracy, or is this rare bare knuckle political power aimed at crushing his opponents? I want to hear from you guys. And as for Jasmine Crockett, is she persecuted? Or rather, is she a persecuted truth teller who's being hunted for her beliefs? Or is she the poster child of everything that's broken in politics, a lawmaker that's hiding from the job that she was elected to do? Y'all let me know what you think about that. Should Jasmine Crockett be handcuffed and brought in back to the state of Texas so that she can do her job? Or is this just being completely blown out of proportion and Greg Abbott's wrong? Y'all let me know where you stand on that. Anybody watching the show from Texas, if you are watching from Texas, let me know where you're watching from, guys. What part of Texas are you watching from? So stick with me, because in the next few minutes, we're going to be unpacking exactly why Jasmine Crockett is in hiding, what Governor Greg Abbott's crackdown really means, how this fight ties into a nationwide battle for political control, and why this manhunt could set off a chain reaction that reaches all the way to Washington, D.C., folks. So, and trust me, when you hear this last piece of the story, you're going to understand exactly why this may be Jasmine Crockett's last stand in Texas politics. Does anybody think Jasmine Crockett should be permanently removed or fired? You let me know in the comments where you stand on Jasmine Crockett. But let's go ahead and start where this political earthquake really began, inside Jasmine Crockett's own office, believe it or not. So her downfall really didn't even start with Greg Abbott. It actually started with the people who knew her the best, her own staff. They went to the New York Post and they dropped a bombshell saying Jasmine Crockett is, in their words, a boss from hell. Now, I don't know Jasmine Crockett personally. Maybe you do. Let me know what you think about that. Do you guys agree or disagree with Jasmine Crockett's staff about her being a boss from hell? But guys, we're talking about a sitting Democrat congresswoman who, according to her aides, refuses to show up for work, spends her days lounging in her luxury apartment, and when she does show up, whenever that happens to be, demands to be chauffeured around the city in a Cadillac Escalade, even if it's just a few blocks. That's got to be pretty expensive, though. And especially if the city is footing the bill, that's like ordering like the Uber luxury option every time. I'm just thinking like that's, and I don't know how she tips, if she tips, I don't know how that would work. Anyway, this is what they're saying. And it's not just about luxury. Who doesn't like a nice car, right? They're actually saying she requires staff to stand outside the car and open her door like she's arriving at the Met Gala. What in the world is going on here, guys? Like, you can't make this stuff. I'm pretty sure her office colleagues aren't making this stuff up. I mean, and so here's where it really turns ugly. Crockett has built her brand on DEI talking points, promising to uplift black women in politics. Yet, according to these same staffers, she fired a black female aide without cause. Is that hypocritical or not, guys? Like, that has got to be taking the cake for one of the biggest hypocrites that I'm aware of, at least as of now. So that's not just hypocrisy. This is the kind of allegation that obliterates the very image that she's trying to sell to voters, that she's been selling to voters. How do you think she got elected? Because she frames herself as the persecuted black woman in Congress, a victim of a racist system. Privately, her own team paints a picture of arrogance, entitlement, and disdain. So what do y'all think about that, guys? Is she really a victim, or is she just a narcissistic, arrogant little, whatever? So this wasn't just a hit to her reputation. This This was probably some political dynamite. I'm just saying, because just as these stories hit the press, Governor Greg Abbott has been gearing up for his biggest crackdown yet. And this kind of brings up the second major piece of the story. Abbott's quorum crisis, and of course, the manhunt that's now shaking Texas politics to its core. But here's how it works. In Texas, the state house cannot pass legislation without a quorum, at least 100 members in the chamber. Republicans hold 88 seats, and so that means you need 12 Democrats in those seats to move forward. But what happens if Democrats just don't show up? That's exactly what they did. All these Democrats fled the state to block a vote, a move that we've seen before in Texas politics. But this time, Abbott's response is completely unlike anything we've seen before. I mean, he's advocated that he's essentially activated the Texas Department of Public Safety to track down these lawmakers wherever they are, in state, out of state, it doesn't matter. The plan is simple. If they are found in Texas, they can be taken into custody and escorted back to the Capitol. Now, Greg Abbott says it's about restoring order and protecting democracy, that the people of Texas deserve lawmakers who actually show up to do their jobs. Does anybody agree with that? Does anyone disagree with that? But critics are saying that this is a dangerous precedent, using law enforcement to target political opponents. So where's the line, really? I mean, is this smart, decisive leadership to keep the government functioning, or is it just raw political muscle that risks turning into overreach? So, we also need to talk about, how does Jasmine Crockett, already weakened by scandal after scandal, fit into this political manhunt? Well, stick with me, guys, because next we need to break down the redistricting battle that's driving this whole fight and why it could completely reshape Texas politics and Jasmine Crockett's own career forever. So some Medicare rules, I want you guys to be aware, some Medicare rules change without headlines. They do it secretly, and they can change your costs overnight. Now, I partner with Chapter because they track these shifts. They track these changes before they cost you a dime. Leslie Taylor avoided a $1,000 per year hit by switching early. Thank goodness she did. Paulette Diener, her son finally got a plan that met his needs after a year of frustration. Now, if you wait for a letter in the mail, it could easily be too late. Do not do that. Call right now. Phone number is down below. It'll just take you a couple seconds, and it is totally free just to find out. Make sure you're not about to get hit with the worst news. You know what they say about Murphy's Law, right? Make sure you're not about to be hit with the worst news when you could literally have just found out for free in a couple of moments. Phone numbers down below, 909-563-8279. Don't let your parents or neighbors get screwed either. Have them call this number, or go to askchapter.org/Ron right now to get ahead of these new rule changes that could be happening any day now. All right, guys, let's pull back the curtain on why this quorum fight is so explosive. This isn't just about showing up for work. This is about control of Texas for the next decade. Now, right now, Texas is in the middle of a high-stakes redistricting battle. Governor Greg Abbott says that the new maps are 100% legal, they're fully constitutional, and drawn to reflect actual voter preferences. And so these preferences, they've been shifting very fast. More Hispanic voters, more Black voters, and increasingly, they're voting Republican. And so Abbott's pointing out that 4 of the 5 new districts on the table are Hispanic majority, and they lean Republican. Now, this is a complete nightmare for Texas Democrats. I mean, they're already losing their grip on key areas, and if these maps pass, it could lock them out of power in certain regions for many years to come. Now, Democrats, of course, they're crying voter suppression, but Governor Greg Abbott, he's quick to fire back. What about California? What about Illinois? What about New York? All deep blue states, all gerrymandered beyond recognition. He's calling it hypocrisy. And for Crockett, it's personal. If this redistricting plan passes, her own district could shift in a way that makes re-election a very real uphill battle. And so that brings us right into the on the run part of the story, because while all of this is happening, Jasmine Crockett isn't in the chamber fighting. She's not on the House floor debating. She's not even in the state of Texas, according to some reports at least. Her GOP challenger, Sheldon Daniels, says that she's gone completely dark, hiding out, refusing to speak to the media, refusing to face her own constituents. And if you think that this is a new behavior for her, no, it's not. Because remember those staff leaks? They said that she already avoids in-person work, preferring to work from home, work remotely, or maybe even just work from Starbucks, or maybe even more accurately, working from her luxury apartment instead, so she doesn't have to deal with the peons or the little people. Now, with Abbott's manhunt underway, the optics are rather brutal. The question now is she dodging Governor Greg Abbott's Texas Rangers, dodging questions from reporters, or dodging accountability from the very people who elected her? That's the real question. Now, I want you to think about this, okay? So Greg Abbott, he's building a case that this isn't just about a missing Democrat. This is about lawmakers abandoning their duty during one of the most critical legislative fights in years. And for Crockett, every day that she stays hidden makes that argument even stronger. But the ripple effects of this fight go way beyond one district, one map, or even one state. Now, of course, we need to talk about the national political shockwaves that this is sending in the post-Biden era under President Trump, and why Abbott's crackdown could become the blueprint for other states facing the same kind of political walkouts. Now, let's zoom out for a second, because this fight in Texas is not happening in a vacuum. It is August 13th, 2025. Joe Biden's gone. President Donald Trump's back in the White House. And whether you believe this is happening, whether you agree with him or not, there's no denying that his administration has been laser focused on accountability, border security, and even restoring election integrity. Now, in that climate, Abbott's crackdown isn't just a Texas story. Clearly, it's a signal that states with strong Republican leadership are not going to tolerate partisan obstruction anymore. Under Trump, there's been a renewed emphasis on getting things done for the American people. And Abbott's actions line up perfectly with what America First mindset is. You were elected to represent your district. You show up and you do the freaking job, period. But here's where the tension spikes. Democratic governors in other states, Kathy Hochul in New York, Gavin Newsom in Texas, J.B. Pritzker in Illinois, they're all slamming Abbott's moves, calling them political games and attacks on democracy. Abbott fires back hard. These are the same governors presiding over the most extreme gerrymanders in the country, yet they lecture Texas about fairness. Yeah, go figure. It's the hypocrisy. It's the hypocrisy charge here, guys. And Abbott is wielding it like a weapon. His message is blunt. If it's wrong for Texas, then it's wrong for California, Illinois, and New York. So why do you get a free pass, right? We should all be asking that question. And that particular question forces the audience to take a side. Is this outrage from blue state leaders about principles really, or is it pure political convenience, right? Crockett, whether she likes it or not, she's become the face of this debate. She's the one that's hiding right now. She's the one whose district could be redrawn. She is the one Abbott's law enforcement could haul back into the Capitol if she sets foot in Texas. But the real question is, what happens when this standoff goes from a Texas headline to a national playbook? Because we need to break down the bigger fight, democracy versus disorder, and why what Abbott is doing right now could reshape the rules for political walkouts in every state. And now we actually reach the heart of this whole confrontation here, okay? Because the question that every viewer has to wrestle with at this point is, this is a fight to protect democracy, or rather, is this a fight to protect democracy? You know what I mean? Or is this a dangerous slide into disorder? Because it could be one or the other. Governor Greg Abbott has been crystal clear about this. In his view, forcing absent lawmakers back to work is not a stunt. It's a constitutional obligation. Texans elected their representatives to sit in the chamber, cast votes, and take tough stands on legislation. Without quorum, the gears of the state grind to a halt. So that means under urgent flood relief for Central Texas families, that gets delayed. Critical election reforms for secure voting integrity, delayed. And perhaps most importantly to both parties, the redistricting maps that could determine the political balance of Texas for the next decade, that ends up being dead in the water. So Abbott frames this as a matter of accountability. If you don't show up for the people who sent you here, the people's work stops, and that's unacceptable. In his mind, using the Texas Department of Public Safety to find and return absent lawmakers isn't government overreach, it's government doing its job. But critics, especially those on the other side of the aisle, they're arguing that this is uncharted territory that blurs the line between upholding democratic law and order and punishing political opponents. They're warning that if it's acceptable for Abbott to send law enforcement officers after Democrats today, it could open the door for a future governor to do the same thing to Republicans tomorrow. And so that, they say undermines the balance of power that keeps politics from turning into a permanent state of warfare. And so right in the middle of the storm here is Jasmine Crockett, a woman who in just a few short weeks has gone from a rising Democratic voice to the most talked about missing lawmaker in the state of Texas. Now, to some people, she's an embattled fighter being targeted for her willingness to challenge Republican power. But to others, she's the living embodiment of dysfunction, a lawmaker avoiding her duties, hiding from the press, and letting down the very constituents that she swore to serve. This is more than a Texas story, guys. This is the kind of showdown that could shape how every state in America handles political walkouts. If Greg Abbott succeeds, it could embolden governors across the country to use the same playbook. If he fails, it could reinforce the idea that quorum busting is a legitimate tactic, if controversial, if political tactic. So here we are, guys. We're staring down the final days of this special session. Will Greg Abbott's crackdown force Jasmine Crockett and her allies out of hiding, dragging them back into the chamber to face the votes that they've been running from? Or will they dig in, stay hidden, and bet that they can outlast the governor's resolve? Either way, one thing is for sure. This fight is far from over. If the session ends without quorum, Abbott has already vowed to call another special session the very next day, and another after that, and another if needed. So this manhunt isn't a one-off. This is the opening move in what could become one of the longest and most bitter legislative standoffs in modern Texas history. Jasmine Crockett, for every passing day that she's on the run and stays in hiding, it changes her legacy. She could return and reclaim her narrative, or she could cement herself as the face of this particular political fight in the age of accountability. It's really up to her. The clock is ticking, the pressure is mounting, and the stakes really couldn't be any higher. So now, if you've been locked in on this story, guys, YouTube believes you're really going to enjoy the very next video that popped up on your screen. Click that video right now because it's the perfect continuation of what we've just been discussing right here. It dives even deeper into the political fights, the power plays, and high stakes moves shaping the future of Texas and the United States, all 50 states. Do not miss the chapter. Do not miss the next chapter. I will see you over there.